It was the last Thursday of April, and my mother had cooked the same dinner she always did. Pork chops, white rice, and a green bean casserole nobody actually liked. The rolls were in the oven too long again, so there was a faint burned smell drifting through the kitchen. The overhead light buzzed the way it had been buzzing for months. No one mentioned it. My father sat at the head of the table, napkin tucked into his collar, halfway through his second beer. My brother Ethan was talking. He always talks. Every story he tells starts with him in the middle of something important and everyone else listening. "So I closed it right there in the parking lot," he said, cutting into his pork chop with both hands. "Biggest quarter we've had in 2 years. Mark pulled me aside after and said I might be up for a promotion." My dad's face changed immediately. It was a specific look, like a light turning on behind his eyes. "That's my boy," he said out loud. My mom smiled and squeezed Ethan's arm. "We're so proud of you." I was sitting across from them, slowly mixing rice into my mashed potatoes. Quiet, the way I'd been quiet at these dinners for years. I wasn't upset. I'd stopped being upset a long time ago. It felt more like watching a show you already knew the ending to. You just let it play. Ethan glanced at me with that polite expression he used when he remembered I was there. "So," he said, "how's the tech thing going?" My dad didn't look up, but his eyebrows lifted slightly. That small movement that meant, "Yeah, how is that going?" "Fine," I said. "It's going fine." "You still at that startup?" my dad asked. He said startup the way some people say hobby. "It's not really a startup anymore," I said, then stopped. I'd learned over the years that the more I explained, the less anyone listened. So I let the sentence end there. My dad took a drink. "Well, Ethan's the businessman in the family, I guess." He laughed at his own joke. My mom laughed too. I smiled. I took a bite of rice. I let it pass. Ethan leaned back, encouraged. "Actually, I've been thinking about getting a place, something real, maybe with a yard." My dad leaned forward. "You should. That house on Oak Street near Tom's place, 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood." "I might," Ethan said. Then he looked at me casually. "I mean, at least someone's settling down, right?" My mom nodded. "Stability matters, sweetheart." My dad finally looked at me. "When are you going to get a real job, Lily? One people have actually heard of?" He wasn't trying to be cruel. That was the hardest part. In his mind, a real job meant steady, safe, familiar. Like his own. Brooks and Calder Consulting. 40-something employees. Beige carpet. Pension plan. "Maybe someday," I said, lightly. No one laughed. Dinner ended the way it always did. Plates cleared, the television turned on. Ethan checked his phone and said he had to meet friends for drinks. He hugged my mom, clapped my dad on the shoulder, waved at me on his way out. "Drive safe," I said. "Yeah," he said, already gone. I helped my mom with the dishes without being asked. We stood at the sink, her washing, me drying. The same rhythm we'd had my whole life. After a while, she said quietly, without looking at me, "He means well. You know your father." "I know," I said. And I did. That was the last Thursday of April. 5 months later, everything my father believed about me would fall apart in a single afternoon. Not because of anything I said. Not because of anything I revealed. Just because he walked through the wrong door. I live alone in a small 1-bedroom on Cedar Avenue. I drive a 2017 Honda Accord with chipped paint on the rear bumper. When people ask what I do, I say I work in tech, and then I wait for them to lose interest. They usually do. That night after dinner, I went home, kicked off my shoes, and put my phone face down on the counter. Then I waited. I had learned over time how to make myself unremarkable. Not invisible exactly, just easy to overlook. The kind of presence that doesn't raise questions. When people don't ask questions, you don't have to lie. You can tell the truth in smaller pieces and let it sound unimportant. When someone asked what I did for work, I said I worked in tech. Sometimes I added, software stuff. If they pressed, which most people didn't, I said it was boring. Internal tools, back-end systems, nothing flashy. That usually ended it. My parents never pressed. Not once. Not in 6 years. The truth was simple and complicated at the same time. I was the founder and CEO of a company called North Meridian Systems. We built enterprise software for large organizations, data management, workflow coordination, compliance tracking. The kind of tools no one notices until they stop working. There were 260 people on payroll, 3 offices, one in Denver, one in Austin, one in Raleigh. The last funding round valued us at just over $300 million. Revenue was steady. Growth was controlled. No headlines. No chaos. I had started it in 2017 from a laptop at a coffee shop on Grant Street. I was 27. I had a little over $4,000 in my checking account and a credit card I was careful not to max out. I wrote the first version myself, every line, every bug. I worked long days because there was no other option. I missed birthdays. I missed holidays. I missed my college roommate's father's funeral because I couldn't reschedule a pitch meeting. I didn't tell my family any of that. I tried once. It was 2019. We had just landed our first serious contract. I sat my parents down at their kitchen table, the same table where Ethan told his stories. I said, carefully, I think the company's going to be okay. I think it might actually be something. My dad nodded politely. That's nice, honey. Then he turned to my mom. Did you hear Ethan might be up for a promotion? Something in me closed. Not loudly, not angrily, just enough to stop trying. After that, I kept my life separate. Meridian was a place of systems and clarity. Home was a place of noise and assumptions. The two didn't touch. What did cross the boundary was money. My family had always needed help. Small things, framed as temporary. A car repair here, a deposit there, a medical bill insurance didn't fully cover. I always said yes. In 2021, my dad's transmission failed. $3,400. I paid it anonymously through a repair shop my mom trusted. Told her it was a favor from a friend. She didn't question it. Ethan needed $1,200 for a security deposit when he moved out. I sent it on a Tuesday afternoon. He texted back, thanks, then asked if I was free for dinner that week. My mom called once about a dental bill, $800. I sent it within the hour. She thanked me, then spent 10 minutes talking about Ethan's new car. I didn't do it to be thanked. I did it because somewhere deep down, I thought being useful might make me visible. By April of this year, I had quietly sent my family just over $14,000 in 18 months. No one ever asked how I could afford it. No one ever wondered. They assumed it came from somewhere else. The breaking point didn't come with a fight. It came on a Wednesday afternoon in early May. My phone buzzed during a board meeting. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I silenced it. The third time it went to voicemail. Hey, Lily, my dad said. My card got declined at the gas station. Long story. Can you send about $600? Mom'll handle it. No please, no question, just expectation. I listened to the message sitting in my office. The real one. Glass walls, city view. My name on the door. I didn't feel angry. I felt finished. I set my phone down. I took a breath, and I stopped. I didn't send the money. I didn't explain. I didn't announce anything. I just stopped. The money stopped. The showing up stopped. The quiet compliance stopped. They didn't notice right away. They never do. For a while, nothing changed. That's how patterns work. When something has always been there, people don't notice it until it's gone. The first request came a few weeks later. A Saturday morning call from my dad. Cheerful tone. Casual. Hey kiddo, car's making a noise. Shop says it's brakes. About $1,800. Think you can help out? I let it ring. My mom called 10 minutes later. I let that ring too. 2 days after that, she texted. Honey, your father's car sounds awful. Are you going to help with this? I read it. I typed nothing. I put my phone down and went for a run. They fixed the brakes a week later. My dad paid with a credit card that already had a balance on it from a birthday trip to visit Ethan. A trip I hadn't been invited on. By June, the cracks started showing. My mom complained about groceries being expensive now, as if prices had changed overnight. My dad started mentioning interest rates at dinner. Ethan texted once, asking if I could float him $1,000 for a car payment. He added a laughing emoji. I didn't respond. Meanwhile, my days stayed steady. North Meridian closed a logistics deal worth just over $4 million in annual recurring revenue. Our user base crossed 500,000. My head of engineering messaged me on a Friday afternoon with a single line. We just hit 500K active users. I printed it and taped it above my desk. In July, during a weekly strategy meeting, our partnerships director, Naomi Reyes, paused mid-sentence while scrolling through inbound inquiries. "We've got one from Brooks & Calder," she said. "Mid-tier consulting firm, looking for a data platform for client-facing operations." Brooks & Calder, my dad's company. I looked at the name on the screen for a few seconds. "Run the standard evaluation," I said. "If they qualify, proceed." Naomi nodded. No one in the room knew the connection. I had never talked about my family at work. Meridian was built on clean lines and clear boundaries. They qualified. Easily, the contract moved forward. Legal reviewed it. Terms were negotiated. No favors, no shortcuts. September 12th, Tuesday. The onboarding visit was scheduled for that afternoon. Brooks & Calder was sending a small team to tour our headquarters and sign final documents in person. I didn't ask who was coming. At 2 o'clock, Naomi knocked on my office door. "They've arrived." "Give them the tour," I said. "I'll come down later." I stayed upstairs, reviewing product timelines, while my father walked into my building for the first time. I didn't see it happen, but our receptionist, Claire, told me later. She notices things. She said he stopped just inside the lobby. Not dramatically, just enough to stare. North Meridian's lobby isn't flashy. Clean lines, light wood, a timeline wall on one side, funding rounds, product launches, client milestones, and opposite it, the founder wall. My photo, black and white, my name beneath it. Claire said my dad stood there, reading it slowly, like he was recalculating something he'd been wrong about for years. Someone asked if he was okay. He pointed at the wall. "That's my daughter," he said. At 2:45, Naomi brought the group upstairs. When they walked into my office, I turned from the window and saw him standing there. Smaller somehow, unsteady. I didn't rush. I didn't fill the silence. I shook hands. I smiled politely. I spoke like I always do. "Good to meet you," I said. I looked at my dad once. Just once. "Hi," I said. That was all. The rest of the meeting ran on schedule. I didn't follow him into the hallway when the meeting ended. That was the first rule I made for myself that afternoon. Step 1. Do nothing in public that needed to be corrected later. Step 2. Let systems finish what they had already started. Step 3. Only speak when the setting allowed clarity. After the Harwood team left my floor, I went back to my desk. I answered emails. I approved a hiring request. I joined a short call with our CFO about Q4 projections. Everything moved the way it always did. At 4:17 p.m., my phone rang. I watched it light up on my desk. Dad. I let it ring. At 4:22, it rang again. I turned my phone face down and kept working. By the time I left the office, there were 7 missed calls and 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to them right away. I took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, nodded to Claire, and stepped outside into the early evening air. The city smelled like rain and hot concrete. At home, I set my bag down, poured a glass of water, and sat on the couch. Only then did I listen. The first voicemail was rushed, confused. My dad asking me to call him back. The second one was quieter. Questions layered over each other. Numbers he didn't understand yet. Valuations. Headlines. The third voicemail ended with an apology that didn't quite know how to stand on its own yet. His voice cracked in the middle of a sentence, then steadied again. "I think I've been wrong," he said, "for a long time." I didn't respond that night. My mom called around 6:30. She left a message too. Mostly my name, said softly, over and over again. Ethan called once. No voicemail. Then a text. "Dad just told me. Is this real?" I didn't answer that either. The next morning, I went to work like usual. At Brooks and Calder, the shift was quieter but noticeable. My dad's supervisor asked a few neutral questions. Nothing accusatory, just awareness. At Meridian, no one treated me differently. That mattered to me. My company didn't exist to resolve my family history. It existed to do its job. Ethan texted again 2 days later. This time, longer. He said he'd looked up the company, read articles, watched an interview I'd done years ago. He said he felt embarrassed. He didn't say sorry exactly, but it was close. I read the message standing in my kitchen, late Friday night. I didn't reply yet. That weekend, my parents didn't come over. No invitations, no pressure. Just quiet. 3 weeks passed. On a Sunday morning, my dad texted, "I owe you a real apology. Can we get coffee?" I read it once. Then I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, nothing special. For the first time, I didn't feel rushed to answer. The coffee could wait. We met on a Tuesday morning at a coffee shop near the river. Neutral ground. Not the place where I grew up. Not the place where I worked. Somewhere with small tables and low voices. I arrived early. I ordered tea and sat where I could see the door. My dad came in 5 minutes later. He looked older than he had a month ago. Not weaker, just unsettled. Like someone who'd lost a map they'd been using their whole life. He stood there for a moment when he saw me. Then, he walked over and sat down across from me. Neither of us spoke right away. That was intentional. "I didn't know," he said finally. I nodded once. Not agreement. Acknowledgement. "I should have known," he added. "I should have asked." "Yes," I said. That was all. He shifted in his chair. His hands were wrapped around his coffee cup, even though he hadn't taken a sip. "When I saw your name on that wall," he said, "it felt like I'd missed something obvious, like everyone else knew except me." I waited. "I thought you were just drifting," he said. "I thought Ethan was the one building something." I took a breath, not to steady myself, just to speak clearly. "I tried to tell you," I said. "Once." He nodded. "I remember." I stopped after that. He looked down. "I know." There was no argument, no defending, no rewriting the past. I didn't need him to agree with my feelings. I needed him to understand the facts. "I've helped when I could," I said, quietly, for years. "I'm done doing that without being seen." He swallowed. "You paid for the transmission," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "And your mother's dental bill?" "Yes." "And Ethan's deposit?" "Yes." He leaned back slightly, like the chair had shifted under him. "I didn't know." "I know," I said. That was the problem. We sat there for a while after that. People came and went. Cups were refilled. A barista wiped the counter. "I don't want money from you anymore," he said eventually. "I don't want that to be the thing." "It won't be," I said. "That's not how this works going forward." He nodded slowly. "Okay." That was the word I needed to hear. When we stood to leave, he didn't hug me. He didn't reach out. He just said, "Thank you for meeting me." "You're welcome," I said. I walked out first. The next week, my mom asked if she could see me. She didn't say it in a dramatic way. It was a simple text. "Can we talk? Just you and me." I agreed to meet at her house on Saturday morning. I picked a time I knew my dad would be out. I didn't want an audience. I didn't want a group discussion where Ethan filled the quiet with opinions. When I arrived, the house looked the same as it always had. Same porch mat, same wind chime near the door that clicked softly in the breeze. Inside, the kitchen smelled like dish soap and coffee. My mom was already at the table. No food, no plates. Just 2 mugs and a small stack of papers near her elbow. She stood when I walked in, then sat again like she wasn't sure what to do with her hands. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I said, and sat across from her. She didn't start with questions about the company. She started with a thing she always used when she didn't know how to begin. "I feel like I don't know you," she said. I nodded once. "That's true." Her eyes filled quickly. She wiped them with a paper napkin and tried to smile. "I always thought you would tell us if something was important." "I did," I said. "One time." She looked down at her mug, then back at me. "Your father told me you paid for things," she said softly. "Over the years." "Yes." "How much?" she asked, like the number might give her something solid to hold on to. I reached into my bag and pulled out a plain folder. No branding, no dramatics, just a folder. Inside were printouts, bank confirmations, receipts, transfers, all labeled by date. I slid it across the table. "This is what I could pull quickly," I said. "There's more. I'm not showing you this to punish you. I'm showing you because you keep saying you didn't know. Now you do." My mom opened the folder with careful fingers. She read the first page, then the next. Her face tightened, then softened, then tightened again as the dates kept going. "I thought," she started, then stopped. "I know what you thought," I said. "You thought I didn't have much. You thought I was figuring it out. You thought Ethan was the one who needed encouragement." She whispered, "We were proud of him." "I'm not asking you to be ashamed of that," I said. "I'm asking you to understand what it cost me to sit at that table and be treated like my life didn't count." She looked up. "Why didn't you say something again?" I didn't rush the answer. I didn't dress it up. "Because the first time I tried, you turned away," I said. "So I stopped offering." She nodded slowly, as if she were replaying that dinner in her head and finally hearing it correctly. After a long pause, she asked the question that mattered more than the company. "What do you want from us now?" I took a breath. "I want basic respect," I said. "I want you to ask me real questions and listen to the answers. I want you to stop using me as a backup plan. I'm not funding emergencies you could have prepared for." She nodded, tears slipping down her face again. "Okay. And," I added, "I'm not doing family dinners for a while. Not until it's calm and normal and not about this." My mom swallowed and nodded again. "Okay." That was the second time I heard that word, without negotiation. Later that day, Ethan texted. Shorter than his last message. "I didn't know. I'm sorry I never asked. If you're willing, I'd like to talk too. No excuses." I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I replied with one sentence. "Next week, 1 hour, coffee shop, just us." He responded almost immediately. "Okay." That's what resolution looked like in my life. Not a speech, not a scene, not a sudden transformation, just documents, timelines, and clear boundaries that everyone could understand. That night, back in my apartment, I put the folder away, wiped down my kitchen counter, and started a load of laundry. The usual sounds filled the space. Water running, the washer turning, quiet, steady motion. Then I sat on my couch and looked at my phone. No missed calls. For the first time in months, The silence felt like something I owned. The week after that, I kept things simple. Work was busy in the normal way. Product meetings, hiring approvals, a client escalation that got resolved with 2 emails and a call. I didn't mention my family to anyone. I didn't need to. Meridian didn't change just because my parents finally learned the name of the thing I'd built. At home, I kept my routine steady. I stocked the fridge. I cleaned the bathroom sink. I took my car through a basic wash and vacuumed the floor mats. Small, ordinary tasks. The kind that make life feel organized when everything else is still settling. On Wednesday evening, I met Ethan at a coffee shop near his apartment. I arrived first and chose a table away from the counter. He walked in looking cautious, like he expected me to be someone else now. Someone louder. Someone sharp. I wasn't. He sat down and held his cup with both hands. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "You don't have to say much," I told him. "Just be honest." He nodded, then said it plainly. "I never asked because I assumed I already knew. I thought you were doing fine, but not like this. And I was wrapped up in my own stuff." I let that sit. "I'm sorry," he said. Not dramatic, just direct. "Okay," I said. He blinked, like he expected an argument. "That's it?" "That's it," I said. "I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to set terms." He nodded slowly. "What are the terms?" I kept my voice calm. "You don't call me for money. You don't put Mom in the middle to ask for money. You don't make jokes about my work. If you're curious, you ask real questions. And you listen." He exhaled, then nodded again. "Okay." There it was again. The same word. The one I needed more than apologies. We talked for the rest of the hour in a steady way. Nothing heated. He asked what the company actually did. He asked how I started. He asked how many people worked there. He looked embarrassed when he realized he didn't know basic things about my life. I didn't pile on. I answered what I wanted to answer and left the rest alone. When we stood to leave, he didn't hug me. He didn't reach for a big moment. He just said, "I'm glad you agreed to this." "I am too," I said, and meant it. A few days later, my dad sent a message. Short, clear. "Your mom and I are going to handle our own finances. No more asking. Thank you for meeting me. If you're open to dinner someday, on your terms, we'll be here." I read it once. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't need to. That's what changed for me. Not their sudden awareness, not the way they looked at me now, not even the apology. It was the fact that I finally moved at my own pace. On Sunday morning, I made tea and stood at my kitchen counter while the kettle clicked off. I wiped a small spill with a paper towel. I checked my calendar for the week. Normal things. Quiet things. I thought about how many people live inside a family role without realizing it. The responsible one, the successful one, the invisible one. Those roles can last for decades if nobody ever looks closely. And I also thought about something else. A friend of mine at work, a woman I've known for years, had been hinting lately about helping out her parents, covering gaps, smoothing over their mistakes. The same pattern, just dressed differently. I hadn't said anything yet, but I could see where it was heading. Maybe that's why this felt worth telling. Not because my father was shocked by a lobby wall, not because a company had a valuation, but because quiet patterns can be broken without shouting, with steps, with receipts, with a calm decision to stop. If you made it to the end, thanks for sitting with my story. If you'd like to hear more like this, go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps the channel, and it keeps this little community going. And tell me in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I always like seeing how far these stories travel. 2 popular stories will be showing up next, so stay close for those.